This is February Heart Month, and my name is Wendy Wesley. I'm a registered and licensed dietitian nutritionist, and I spent many years working at a local acute care hospital here in St. Petersburg, and I was assigned to the stroke and the cardiac floors. And so I have been teaching heart health nutrition for years, and it's one of my absolute favorite topics to teach because we live in a world that is full of very, very low fiber, highly processed, very, very high sodium foods. And these are all of these foods will drive cardiac disease. And where you see cardiac disease, you see diabetes, and then ultimately kidney failure. And that seemed to be the progression that I saw when I worked in the hospital. Is we started with some high blood pressure, it led to congestive heart failure, and then sometimes diabetes developed, and then after that we had kidney failure. So it is so important for us to eat very, very high fiber foods, minimally processed foods, what I call the single ingredient foods, and primarily those are found in plants. I am not a vegan, nor am I a vegetarian, but I call myself plant majority. And my goal as I move forward with my life is to eat more plants and eat less animal products. I'm not against animal products, but the more I learn, the more I study this, and the more I work with people, I truly believe that a very high fiber, very colorful, low sodium, minimally processed diet is the way forward to either avoid chronic disease, diabetes, cardiac disease, kidney failure, and to manage it if you have cardiac disease, diabetes, and kidney failure. I know we have lots of medications for all these things, and I have helped a lot of my patients get off of medication, and that's one of the most satisfying things I do is help people change their diet so that they can reduce the amount of medication they take or actually get off of medication altogether. And this can be done with food. So what I want to do for you today is I could talk about this topic for forever, and I have a couple of recipes I'm going to put together. Here I'm in Florida, and we are in the middle of collard green season, and our collard greens are definitely in season. They're very, very inexpensive, and when they are fresh like these are, you see how fresh these are. They're really, really floppy and soft and pliable. They make fantastic wraps. I was on a news channel yesterday, and I made these collard green wraps for the show, and I want to make them for you today. And also I want to demonstrate a very, very hearty, high protein, very, very high fiber black bean soup that is so easy to put together. I use canned beans, and it's very, very inexpensive. And for this colder weather, it's nice to have a hearty bean soup. So before I start, does anyone have any questions? I'd love to, please, it's best when you ask questions if you have them, because then it's more interactive and it's just more lively that way. So does anyone have any questions?
I do.
Can you?
Oh, good. I love questions.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's not super loud, but I can hear you pretty well.
Okay, so my question would be on the beans. I imagine there's other people that deal with gas from beans. Is it just avoiding beans completely, which I hate to because I know they have so much good stuff?
The more you consume beans, the less flatulence you'll have. Really, the people experience the most negative side effects from beans when they haven't had them for a while, and all of a sudden they have a big bean meal, and then but if you incorporate beans into your everyday life, the side effects, the flatulence side effects will minimize. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Another argument for beans, again, very, very high in fiber, and the more fiber we get into our diet, the lower we can bring down cholesterol. So statins are great and they work, but I'm telling you, high fiber diets will bring down that cholesterol, as well as exercise. Okay.
Question about the collard greens. I'm in Colorado and I've never had a collard green. What does it taste like?
It kind of tastes like kale. It tastes like a very kind of a dense spinach. They're very, very high in iron. So when you eat them, you can actually taste the iron like you will with spinach. And if you can't get collard greens, I also find that this time of the year, Napa cabbage is in season, and Napa cabbage makes great rolls as well. I love to make these rolls with Napa cabbage. So I'm going to start with a collard green leaf, or you could, like I said, you can use a Napa cabbage, or you could use a big romaine leaf for this as well. These are great for a party. They look very pretty on a platter. And then I use a dipping sauce that I buy from Trader Joe's. I'll pull it out of the fridge. I really like this dipping sauce. And so when I get them done, I serve these collard green wraps or Napa cabbage wraps or romaine lettuce wraps with this dipping sauce. This is a Trader Joe's product. It's fantastic. It is it's high in sodium, so you have to use it sparingly, but 2 tablespoons of it is a serving size. So everybody, 2 thumbs up. A tablespoon is about the volume of your thumb. And so I love to teach this trick because this applies to cream cheese, mayonnaise, peanut butter, salad dressing. So the typical serving size for these kinds of things is 2 tablespoons, or the volume of 2 thumbs. So if you're using quite a bit more of that, you may be getting like a big calorie and a big fat load, because it's very easy to overpour stuff like this. It's very easy to overuse cream cheese on your bagel. Or when you're making a sandwich, it's very easy to overuse peanut butter. So this is a good rule of thumb. The typical serving size for these very calorically high fat products is 2 tablespoons, or the volume of 2 thumbs. Now this dipping sauce is just, and I do not work for Trader Joe's, but this dipping sauce is just 30 calories per serving. So you just have 30 calories for 2 tablespoons of it. Any questions about serving sizes? I use my hands, and I teach people to estimate serving sizes of food using hands. And that's also a cool lesson I can elaborate on.
What was the name of the dipping sauce?
It's called GUYOZA, Goiza dipping sauce. It's a Trader Joe's product. And I like it so much that I may just go buy a lot of it, because, you know, Trader Joe's, they tend to phase out their products. They'll have a product, and then you'll go to the store in 3 months looking for it, and it's not there. So if you find a product at Trader Joe's that you like, they tend to phase out their products. So stock up on stuff that you like from Trader Joe's is what I've learned, if you have one in your community. So I'm going to start. Are there any questions about serving sizes? Maybe I should just do the serving size lesson. Everybody make a fist.
Wendy, I'm sorry. I was going to ask, is it possible that you can share the recipe to the participants, or with the participants?
Yes, like not right. I can do it when I'm finished.
Right.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. I can.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I want to go through this serving size lesson using hands, because I find it is so handy. Everybody make a fist. So from your wrist, your fist up, the volume of your fist is about 1 cup. So when you're in the grocery store and you're looking at say a cereal, and the serving size of that cereal, say Cheerios, is 1 cup. I want you to make a fist, and I want you to look at that cup, and I want at your fist and say, how likely am I to eat that amount? And then that can kind of guide you on whether that is a product for you. A lot of people are very heavy-handed with cereal. They just kind of indiscriminately pour it into a bowl, and not even really thinking about the serving sizes. So again, here's 2 tablespoons. 1 cup. If you can kind of cut your fist in half, you will see that that's about a 1/2 cup. Now everybody says at this point, but Wendy, your fist is small, and I'm a man, and I'm 6'2", and my fist is much bigger. It's a relative kind of a measurement, because bigger people, taller people need more energy than a small, shorter person. So your fist kind of corresponds with your energy needs. Okay, it's just kind of a general tool. Another cool hack is the palm of your hand, not the fingers, just the palm of your hand, is about 3 ounces of protein or meat, and that's the typical serving size for chicken, for beef, for pork. You know, a 3-ounce hamburger is about the size of your of the palm of your hand. The serving size of fish is your entire hand, fingers included. Fish is less dense, so you get more of it. Then chicken and beef and pork are more dense, so you get less of it. So a serving size of fish is about 5 to 6 ounces, and serving size of beef and chicken is about 3 ounces. This is another one. If you kind of hold your fingers and you kind of look down your fingers like you're looking down the barrel of a gun, that is stick spaghetti. That's the serving size of stick spaghetti, uncooked. So if you can kind of take that and kind of visualize that much, and that's not much. That's a serving size of stick spaghetti. So if you're making spaghetti for 3 or 4 people, make that serving size. You'll be less likely to overeat. Nothing wrong with pasta, but I find that when I eat pasta, I try and bulk it up with a lot of vegetables. And that way I'm getting a little bit of pasta, but I'm getting a lot of vegetables. So that's one hack for enjoying your pasta and then not overeating on that very, very highly processed carbohydrate. Let's see, what else? What are some of the other little hacks? The tip of your finger is about a teaspoon. And I'll think of some more as I go forward. So what I'm going to do with my collard green is I'm just going to cut off the stem. And if you compost, of course, these stems go great in your compost pile, in addition to your coffee grinds, your eggshells, your onion tops, your any kind of garden food waste will go into your compost bin if you are a gardener. So the stem on my collard green leaf is pretty stiff, and I can't really fold it. You see, I can't really fold it because it's stem. So what I'm going to do is lay it flat, and I'm going to take the edge of my knife. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing. And I'm just going to run this over and kind of remove this woody stem with the blade of my knife. You can use a paring knife. I just use a chef's knife for everything. Now, one thing I want to say about high fiber foods, cardiac disease, and lowering cholesterol is if you're going to eat high fiber foods, you'll need to use knives. High fiber foods require the use of knives. The other thing that high fiber foods require is the use of your teeth. And so I always say, if you're not chewing, you are likely gaining weight or driving chronic disease. So very, very high fiber foods, they take time to prepare. They take time to eat because they involve a lot of chewing. I always use this example. Here's a can of Coke. I've got a bag full of empty food down here that I use for demonstrations. The sugar in 1 can of Coke is equal to the sugar in 5 apples. And it's also equal to the sugar in 1 tub of yogurt, sweetened yogurt. So 5 apples, a can of Coca-Cola, and a tub of yogurt all contain the same amount of sugar. And I always say, how long does it take you to eat 5 apples? A long time, right? How long does it take you to suck down a can of Coke? Not that long. And then how long does it take you to eat a tub of yogurt? So when you're thinking about sugar and fiber, always think about those 5 apples and the amount of time required for your mouth, your teeth, and then once it hits the stomach, your digestion to handle all of that fiber. And again, those high fiber diets will just take that cholesterol, process it through the liver, and send it out into the sewer. And that's how high fiber diets will rid our bodies of cholesterol. Any questions? Okay, so I'm just going to remove this stem. Okay, and so now see, I've gotten it to be where I could fold it and it's a bit more pliable. So what I have is some hummus. This is just store brand hummus, regular hummus. And so what this does is it kind of functions as a kind of a little bit of glue. Before I do the hummus though, I want to prepare some of my fillings. So I'm going to show you this. This is one of the best nutrition hacks I have ever come across, and it's my favorite thing. These are both of these are just, I bought spinach in each of these. This is all they were, spinach containers, but I actually bought them not for the spinach so much. I ate the spinach, but I bought them for their container. And so what I have here is, turns into my vegetable keeper. So in here, I have some spinach. I have an onion, and I have I have green onion, and I have a white onion in here, and I have a bunch of spinach that is still fresh. Now this spinach has been in here going on, believe it or not, almost a week and a half, and it's still quite fresh. Now what I have in the bottom of this container is a wet kitchen towel. And so what happens is the water from this wet kitchen towel keeps all of these vegetables very, very full of water. And I find that when I use this method, I can keep things like spinach, onions. I've got some peppers in here, squash that I've been keeping, and they're all staying very, very crisp and fresh. And it's because that kitchen towel that's at the bottom of this container is keeping everything nice and fresh. So I'm going to pull out a green onion, and from this one I'm going to pull out a squash that I already started yesterday, a red bell pepper that I started several days ago, and because it's sitting in this container, it's still nice and crisp and fresh. And again, a cucumber. Cucumber is nice and fresh because it's been sitting in this container with the wet paper towel, or the wet kitchen towel. So these are going to be the items that I'm going to put into my collard green wraps. So I'm going to give my squash a cut, and the goal is I want these things to be kind of thin strips that I'm going to put into the wraps. So I'm going to give them a nice pick. Now this is a fun thing for kids to do. Believe it or not, kids, when I first started teaching cooking to kids, I was so afraid that they were going to cut themselves. It's kind of like kids when they go skiing, they're fearless when they are using knives. They're actually fearless, but I haven't had any mistakes, knock on wood. So don't be afraid. My point is, don't be afraid to let kids cut with knives. And maybe not a knife like this, but there are some cool plastic or hard plastic safety knives out there. It is so important to introduce your kids to the production of food, fruits and vegetables. Get them going in the kitchen young, and they will turn into good eaters as adults. Here in St. Pete, I do a summer camp series with kids. And all along, I'm teaching nutrition, and I'm also teaching them basic knife skills and food prep skills that serve them for the lifetime. So I'm cutting these. This is cucumber I'm putting into strips. So I have squash, I have yellow squash, I have red bell pepper, and I have some cucumber. And I'm going to put these all into my, I'm going to do some onion too.
Wendy, question for you.
Yeah, of course.
When you have that container full of veggies with the towel on the bottom, does your onion start to stink up your fridge, or does it stay mild?
It stays mild. It does not stink up my fridge. Believe it or not, that's a really, really good question. It does not stink up my fridge. I have found that avocado doesn't do as well, and avocado is one of those things I try not to save for leftover, because their avocados are always breaking my heart. They're always getting funky on me. But my onions, everything else stays super crisp using this method. I'll tell you, I used to go through a lot of produce and throw away a lot of produce, and it used to upset me because I wouldn't get to eat the produce and I was wasting money. And then I happened upon this little cool hack, and my vegetables are staying crisp, and I'm actually eating more vegetables because of this hack, because they're not going bad on me. So I'm thrilled about this, and I love to share this trick with people. Okay, so I've got things put together, and I'm going to assemble the wrap now. So a little bit of hummus. This is just, like I said, store brand hummus. just like a burrito kind of a preparation, I'm going to use the bottom. I'm going to fill it up with the bottom third. Okay. And then I'm arranging the strips of the pepper, the onion, the squash, and I hope that it doesn't fall apart on me because it has in the past. So I'm going to fold up the sides, fold up the bottom, and rolling everything very, very tight. Very, very tight. Oh, it's breaking on me a little bit. And then I'm going to use a little bit of this hummus as a little bit of glue here at the end. Just a little bit of glue at the end. Now, if I'm making these for a party, I'll let them sit and kind of gel before I cut them. But for our purposes today, I'm going to cut one and show it to you. There it is. There's my little collard green wrap. And then you dip it in this stuff and it is super good. Or if you want, I've actually used a little soy sauce and peanut butter and made a dip for these things. So again, getting kids involved with this. These are very, very colorful. You can call them rainbow wraps. Getting kids involved is very, very important. Here's the other side. Doesn't that look pretty?
What would you recommend for adding more protein into that recipe?
Oh, you know, you could do, you could fill these up with tuna salad and a little bit of vegetables. You could use chicken salad and a little bit of vegetables. That would be very, very good. Or just strips of chicken would be good in here too. I've seen these actually done with chickpeas, like a chickpea mixture. And chickpeas are very, very high in protein, very high in iron. But again, that's what hummus is. That's what hummus is chickpeas. So, and then next, I'm going to get some soup going with some of these onions. I'm going to put the peppers in the soup. I'm going to put onions in the soup. I'm not going to put cucumbers in my soup. Don't worry about that. But I'm going to get this pepper going because I want to put this pepper in my soup. I find that these soups are, I will go into my refrigerator and kind of clean out my refrigerator and see what vegetables are on their way out. And I will just load them up with the soup. Let me get the burner going. I'm going to put that on medium and add a little bit of oil. Any questions? Let me get my onion out of here. I find that the majority of people who are really struggling with diabetes and cardiac disease are eating very, very highly processed diets, and their vegetable and fruit intake is quite low. And I have had great success with helping people lose weight and get off medication by really, really ramping up the amount of fruits and vegetables that people eat. And a lot of that begins with knife skills. A lot of my patients aren't comfortable with knives. They haven't really used knives before. So we start them slow, get them comfortable using knives, and then they turn into, they become more comfortable with the knife, and then they're eating more fruits and vegetables. One other trick I have for eating more fruits and vegetables is leaving your cutting board out on your counter. Over here, right next to my stove, over here, I have a cutting board that sits out all the time. And when I have a cutting board that sits out all the time, I find that it eliminates a step to my cooking. I don't have to go find the cutting board and pull it out. It is ready to go. And then right below my cutting board is where I keep all my knives. So I create this system where getting cooking happens quickly. I don't have to kind of pull out all this equipment to get going, because most of my meals have at least an onion in it, and I try and put as much pepper and other things. And when the cutting board is out and the knives are ready to go, you're ready to go and start cooking and get going quickly. So I'm going to give this onion these vertical chops, and then I'm going to come in on the onion and go horizontal, and that's going to give me a dice. Because of the way an onion is made, I'm just going to get this automatic dice. The way an onion is segmented, I'm going to get this nice automatic dice. Okay, so I've got this oil going in the pan and it's getting heated up. The way you know, the way you know your oil is ready to go is if it moves quickly on the pan, kind of moves quickly back and forth. That's moving kind of slow, so I'm going to let it heat up just a bit more while I prepare my peppers. And what I'm putting together right now is it's just a very, very simple and quick black bean soup, and I am using canned beans. There is nothing wrong with canned beans. I love always having beans in my pantry. It means I'm always ready to go with to make a soup or a dip or to add them to a salad. So don't think that you have to use dried beans or fresh beans. There's nothing wrong with canned beans. I do use the juice from the beans because beans are actually put into the raw beans are put into this can with water. They are it's sealed, and then the actual can is cooked, and that's how beans are cooked. They're cooked in the can. So the juice inside this can contains a lot of starch because starch during the cooking process leached out into the water. So I will use the entire can of beans, the juice included, and it makes for this very, very thick and tasty soup. Now, what I will not do is add additional salt to the recipe because there is salt in these beans. I will, however, doctor it up with chili powder and onion powder. So the powders, the chili powder, the garlic powder, and the onion powder will have no salt, because when you see a spice that says powder, that means there's no salt in it. Okay, I've got onion and I've got pepper, and I'm going in the pan ready for the sizzle. Woo! Sometimes I don't get my pan hot enough and I put it in and there's no sizzle, and that's always very disappointing. So I love when I can get my sizzle. Let me finish getting these peppers going. Any questions? Anything to do about cardiac disease, diabetes, anything at all?
You mentioned earlier about putting chicken salad or tuna salad to get a source of protein. Those are typically very mayo based. What can you do to avoid the mayo?
What I do is a half mayo, half mustard. So I cut my mayo with mustard, and because mustard is it's almost no calories. It can be very high in salt, but mustard is an almost 0 calorie food. So I love a Dijon mustard as a way to use less mayonnaise, and I use that for all kinds of things where I use mayonnaise. I do like half mayonnaise, half mustard. But I'm from the South and I like mayonnaise. So like full disclosure, I cook with butter. I like mayonnaise. But what they say, it's not the poison, it's the dose. So I cook with butter. I don't cook with butter. I use mayonnaise. I don't use mayonnaise. But you better believe I cook with full fat foods because I find that when I use the full fat versions of things, I tend to use less of it, and I get that taste that I want. So I am a dietitian that cooks with butter and olive oil. Those are the two things I typically cook with, is olive oil and butter. I think the most important thing is just to cook. People who eat at home have better diets than people who are doing restaurant takeout food or doing prepared foods or frozen foods. So really just the act of cooking at home, knowing what's in your food, having control over added sugar, having control over added fats and salts. Because when you eat at restaurant food in restaurants, you really are at the mercy of the restaurant, and they're in the business of getting your repeat business. They're not in the business of your good health. So when you are cooking at home, you are in control of salt, fat, and sugar. When you outsource that, you have outsourced that power. So I want for people to cook more at home, and that cooking does not have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be gourmet. And it's why I do a soup with canned beans, because I don't want people to think, oh, well, she's using dried beans and she's soaking them overnight and then she's cooking for hours. No, I don't have that kind of time. I'm a busy person. I want to cook at home, but I don't want to be a slave to my kitchen. I don't want to kill myself. And so I give you permission to use canned beans. And frozen vegetables. People say, oh, you use frozen vegetables. I said, you better believe I use frozen vegetables. They're in my freezer. They're ready when I'm ready. They're not rotting in my fridge. I keep things like broccoli, green beans, all kinds of frozen vegetables ready in my freezer for weeknight dinners. One other thing I do to get weeknight dinners going fast is on Sunday, I'm not one of these people that will cook in advance. Some people can do that. Some people on a Sunday will be very, very disciplined and cook a week's worth of meals. The only thing I will do on Sunday is I'll cook a grain. So I'll cook a pan of rice. I will cook some oatmeal for breakfast, like a big pot of oatmeal that I will then take and put in a microwave bowl and heat up. And then I'm in control of the sugar. I'm in control of the butter. Or I'll cook up some quinoa or some barley, and I'll just cook it and I'll put it in the fridge behind me. And then when Tuesday night rolls around and I want to make a stir fry, the rice is already done. I'll do this with pasta as well. I'll pre-cook all of the grains. And then when I'm trying to put dinner together, I'm not also trying to cook pasta or rice. That is one thing that has really helped me cook more at home is frozen vegetables. This has helped me cook more at home because I've got more vegetables that are not in my fridge rotting and wilting. Using cans and then cooking that starch on a Sunday in advance. Any other questions? I think I see something in the chat. Should I click on the chat?
Is there a reason why those plastic containers are better than other plastic containers, or just that they were the right size?
That's a great question. They were just the right size. And the other reason I like them is they're clear. So here's the thing. I want everybody to think about, don't keep processed junk out on the counter at where you can see it. If you do bring processed junk into the house, I'm not saying don't, but put it away in the counter. Don't have it out. I've walked into people's homes and they've got cookies and cakes and candies out on the counter, and they're just kind of calling your name. I say that your kitchen countertops are precious, precious real estate, and the only thing that gets to sit out is fruits that are pretty and colorful, and they're reminding you, we're here, you need to eat us so we don't go bad. And the other thing is, when you open your refrigerator, front and center. When you open your refrigerator, front and center, I want these to be front and center. I want it to be the first thing that you see. So you open your fridge and it's right at eye level and you say, oh, look at all that spinach. Well, I'm going to cook some eggs. I better put the spinach in the eggs. So that happens to me all the time. So I keep my vegetables right at eye level in the fridge, and I keep my fruits out on a pretty platter. And they remind me, hey, I'm over here. You better eat me. You paid really good money for me. Consume it.
Does that storage trick also work for fruits as well as vegetables with the kitchen towel? Okay.
It does. Like if you cut up half, say you cut up half of a piece of fruit, you could certainly put it in there with the kitchen towel and it will not get mushy. It'll stay what we call turgid, which means the cells will stay full of water because that water in the towel is constantly moving from that wet surface of that wet area of the towel into the cells of the food. And that's what's happening, is that wet towel is constantly rehydrating those vegetables and fruits. And that's why that works. Okay. I had a little bit of a bad spot on this onion. No worry. You can put a little bit of onion, a little bit more onion. I love a lot of onion in my soup. I'm gonna crack open these beans. Like I said, the whole can is going in. Now, I'm not one for kitchen gadgets, but I do love my Immersion Blender. The stick Immersion Blender. Let me grab the base of it and show you. And then the topper. Sorry, I'm pulling it from my sink. This is my stick Immersion Blender. And like I said, I'm not one for gadgets in the kitchen, but this is a gadget that I love, and it is so helpful. It gets to stick around. What I'll do is I will heat up these beans, get them nice and bubbly and boiling, and then I will take half of them and I will pulverize. I'll put this right down in the pot, and I will pulverize about half of them. And then this makes for a very, very, it makes for a very, very creamy black bean soup. These black beans are, it's amazing once they get all cooked and ooey and gooey, they are just so velvety and lovely. It always blows me away. Talk about a super fantastic source of fiber and protein. And also there's a lot of iron in these black beans. So if you are struggling with anemia, lentils are very high in iron. All the beans are very high in iron. These dark green leafy vegetables, very, very high in iron. And then if you can stomach it, liver. Actually, the food with the highest amount of iron is liver, and no other food even comes close to it if you can stomach liver. Not everybody can. But I make a chicken liver pate, and I can eat liver when I turned it into a pate with garlic and spices, and I put it on a cracker. I can eat liver that way. Any questions? Diabetes, grocery shopping, saving money at the grocery store, cooking more at home, food fatigue. Okay, let's get these beans going. What time is it? Okay. I see a couple of questions in the chat. I think I will click on those. Oh, I see 4 questions in the chat. Let's read these. Oh, are frozen vegetables better than canned? I always say, people ask me this question all the time, and they say, Wendy, what's the best vegetable? And the answer is the one that makes it into your stomach. That's the best vegetable. So whatever works for you and your budget and your family and your style of cooking, no judgment here. If fresh organic works for you and you eat it, awesome. If non-organic, regular works for you and you eat it, fantastic. If frozen works for you and you eat it, and if canned, I will pass no judgment on vegetables. Whatever vegetables work for your family and your budget and your style, do it. Like I said, I don't want to put up any barriers for fruit and vegetable consumption ever. I'll put up barriers for Oreo consumption and pizza consumption and, other things that are highly processed foods, but I will put up no barriers for fruit and vegetable consumption ever. Frozen vegetables are often frozen very, very close to where they're picked. So they're picked and they're brought to a processing plant and they're frozen. And so they will retain a lot of their nutrients, but they're not better. Like I said, do what works for you and don't feel bad about your style at all. Let's see what other questions were there while my beans heat up. Repeat your hack for the vegetables. Is there a more favorable type of pasta to use? If you find a whole grain pasta that you like, that is definitely a better choice than a white pasta. What I do is I use a regular white pasta, but I always try and bulk, whenever I'm having pasta, I always try and bulk it up with vegetables, which means if I'm doing a marinara sauce, I am going to bulk up my marinara. Even if I'm using a jar of ragu, I am going to bulk it up with green peppers. I'm going to bulk it up with onions. I bulk it up with carrots. I love putting shaved carrots or little diced carrots into my marinara, because as they cook, they release the sugar and they make the sauce, you know, really, really kind of a little sweet and a little sticky. So I have no issue. A doctor said one thing to me that just changed everything. All of your sugar should be bound in fiber. So the sugars found in carrots are bound in fiber. The sugars found in apples are bound in fiber. The sugars found in processed cookies, cakes, pies are not bound in fiber. And I recommend that you enjoy those foods on special occasions only. Try not to bring these foods into the house. If you want ice cream or a treat, go outside the house to get it with your family or your friends. Make it a special occasion. Try not to bring these foods into the house. They have a way of calling your name during very, very stressful times. COVID-19 can be very isolating, can be very lonely. It can be frustrating. It can produce anger. And all of these emotions can drive us to eat. I always say that treat real hunger with real food, and then learn to recognize what fake hunger is. Because often when we have what we call fake hunger, which is driven by anger, loneliness, frustration, tired, we want something very sugary and processed. But when we have real hunger, real food like these beans or some eggs or a salad or something that's really, really full of nutrition is really what we're craving, because we have real hunger. But that junk hunger, that fake hunger, is often very impatient. It is often very specific for, it must be chocolate right now. It must be potato chips right now. So learn to recognize the difference between real hunger that's met with real food, that's taken care of with real food, and junk hunger that is, you know, calling your name from the pantry because you brought this food into the house. The best thing is just to not bring the food into the house in the first place.
So you mentioned before about grocery tips. Can you give us your favorites?
My favorite grocery tips. Well, definitely, especially if you're interested in making a bigger environmental impact on your food, you should buy what is in season, and that is often found on the end caps of the produce department of your grocery store. And that's often very, very inexpensive. So try and buy what is in season, and try and buy, and you'll find that on the end caps of the produce department, and it'll be usually very, very cheap or lower price. So if you're buying things that are in season, it might be likely that you're buying them from not too far away from where you live, which means that you're reducing your carbon footprint, you're reducing your environmental impact on food. So I live in Florida, and I really work hard to buy foods that are grown in Florida. I look for that Florida label, which means it didn't take a lot of fossil fuels to get that produce from the field in Florida to my grocery store into my kitchen. And so trying to make more of an environmental impact. Another way you can make a good environmental impact is to try not to buy too many of your fruits and vegetables that are wrapped in plastic. I bought these collard greens that were grown in Florida, and the only thing they had was a rubber band around them. So trying to buy your lettuces not in plastic, but unbound, so you're not adding to our plastic problem, our global plastic problem. So buying what's in season, you'll save money and you'll have a better impact on the environment. Also, if you can get into composting, we throw away tons and tons and tons of this kind of stuff. And what this makes is what we call hot garbage. This stuff is very, very active when it hits garbage. It gives off a lot of heat when it is decomposing. It is heavy. And if you are into composting and gardening, things like this will just make this incredibly rich soil that you can use on your garden. And if you don't have a garden, if you just have containers or pots, you put this very, very rich compost that you created into your pots and watch your plants explode. Nothing will make your plants explode like compost. It's incredible stuff. I'm working with the city of St. Pete right now to create incentives for our restaurants here in St. Pete to compost, so that they are putting less of this kind of stuff into the landfill and also contributing to the elimination of greenhouse gases. Let's see. Oh, Color said, just dig small holes. Oh yeah, she says, just dig small holes in the ground and put leaves and branches on top. I have a dog, so I cover. Yes, excellent, excellent. Yeah, when I started composting, my mind was blown at how easy it was and how nutrient rich this soil was and what it did for my my containers. Let's see. What is this one? Frozen vegetables, saving money and keeping the weight off, family heart disease. Cooking, I find cooking so difficult and I get discouraged with a hectic home life with kids. Yeah. More reflection on how and why I eat by working with a physician and a dietitian. I'm finding the process of deciphering the whys of emotional eating. Absolutely. Yeah, I do. I work with a lot of people for whom, especially during this time of COVID-19, who have gained quite a bit of weight, and their diabetes and cardiac disease have worsened because of the content, consuming lots and lots of convenience foods or comfort foods, I guess. And it's so important for us to be very, very mindful of when we eat and why we eat and what we're eating. And I find that little trick, you stop yourself. Is this real hunger? Is this hunger because I'm truly hungry and my body needs fuel? Or is this hunger because I just read an email that upset me? So again, when hunger strikes, ask, is it real or is it junk? Is it met with real food or is it met with junk food?
And drinking a lot of water seems to help with it.
Often, you're absolutely right. I find that sometimes hunger is just good old-fashioned thirst. So one of the hacks is to first take a big gulp of water, a big drink of water, and see if that takes care of it too.
You mentioned food fatigue. Can you talk a little bit more about what that is and how to beat it?
Yeah, every time you go to the grocery store, just challenge yourself to buy just one new thing. This is something that's new to you and your family, a new spice, a new grain. Recently, I discovered farro, which has become my new favorite grain. So when I make a bowl, I'm sure you've had these restaurant bowls. You go to restaurants and you pay $16 for a bowl. And so the bowl is a base of a grain, and then it's vegetables, maybe some cheese, some nuts, and some kind of a protein. I went to a restaurant and one of their choices was farro, and it had this fantastic kind of chewy, nutty flavor. So went to the grocery store and found farro. There was just one little package of farro. There weren't a lot of choices, which is where these food stores that sell foods in bulk, you'll find a lot of awesome choices of rice and different kinds of grains. And that's where that cook a grain on Sunday comes in. So I brought the farro into the house, I cooked it up, and with no intention of eating it, of saving it for later in the week, just so I would have it ready to go. So like I said, every time you go to the store, challenge yourself to buy a new frozen vegetable, a new spice, a new fresh vegetable. Maybe it's a new cut of meat. Getting emails I like to get emails from Bon Appetit. I think they have great recipes. I also get the Bon Appetit magazine, and I think that the recipes in the Bon Appetit magazine are very, very good.
Is there anywhere else you recommend people find the recipes who are trying to be healthier?
Oh, if you keep cookbooks, I keep I keep cookbooks. These are all of my cookbooks up here. And if you keep cookbooks, I find sometimes if I have a little bit of time, I will just grab a cookbook off the shelf and kind of take a minute to go through it. I think that the internet is a great source of recipes, but sometimes those sites you have to scroll through, scroll to get to the recipe, and that's done on purpose. So you'll look at the ads, and that's why I find that cookbooks are. I've kind of gone. I used to use the internet a lot, and now I'm back to my cookbooks because I'm so tired of scrolling through all the ads. So I find that thrift stores, if you're interested in making an environmental impact, buying books at used bookstores, buying cookbooks at used bookstores or thrift stores are great. They're just like $1 for a book, and if it works, great. If it didn't, all you did was waste $1. And then you also haven't paid a lot of money for Amazon to put the book on the truck and bring it to you. So I'm a avid thrift store and used book shopper. So it's the thrill of the hunt, right? All right, I am going to put some of my beans into the cylinder, and I'm going to blend them up and show you how these beans blend up nicely. Plug it in, and let me get my cylinder. Where's my cylinder? Here it is. Sorry about that noise. So this, my Immersion Blender came with this cylinder. And it's a great just for this tool because just for this purpose, because I'm going to put some of the beans in here. I'm going to pulverize them and I'm going to add them back into the soup. And so this nice cylinder means that I'm not making this big mess and splattering beans all over my kitchen. So this is a product by Cuisinart, and I really, really love it. Because who wants to get out the whole apparatus of the blender and make a big mess, right? So I put some of the beans in here, and the Immersion Blender just goes right down in it like this. Okay, that's all it takes. And then this makes for such a nice velvety soup. So I'm going to add it back to the soup, what I pulverized. Any more questions about cooking, cardiac disease, cooking more at home? And I'm going to add a little bit of water. A little bit of water. And then this soup will come back to the boil and it'll be ready to eat. I'm going to, now see, I have some in here. I have some beans and I have some pulverized. So I've got a nice mixture, about 50% of the beans are pulverized and 50% of the beans are left whole. This is one of my absolute favorite, easy go-to soups. I'm going to add some chili powder. This is sodium-free chili powder that I bought at Trader Joe's. I do not work for Trader Joe's. I just find that I found a very, very good spice there. And I do have some garlic powder that I can add. I'll add some garlic powder. I would add a clove of garlic, but I'm out of garlic. Don't have it. Okay. Any other questions? Diabetes, shopping, cardiac disease, emotional eating. Let me take a look at the, oh, I want to talk about yogurt and added sugar. So this is a product, this is plain low-fat yogurt, and it does not, this whole thing is a no sugar added yogurt. I like yogurt. It's very, very high in protein. but I recommend that you buy an unsweetened yogurt and you sweeten it yourself with fruit, or even with honey, or even with sugar, because that way you are in control of the amount of sugar that goes into your yogurt. When I learned that a little cup of yogurt this size contains as much sugar as this, is when I really said, I need to talk about this, because we don't realize how much sugar is added to yogurts. It's very, very high. So I recommend that you buy plain yogurt and you sweeten it at home, and because that way you are in control of the sugar. The factory is not in control of the sugar. This is a product called Too Good, TWO Good, and it has 2 grams of sugar. So if you're an astute shopper and a careful shopper, you can find a yogurt that has very, very low added sugar, and this is one of them. But if you're just buying the regular yogurt right off the shelf, you can bet that it's going to have a lot of sugar in it. Any questions about sugar, diabetes, carbohydrates? One of my favorite snacks for cardiac disease is a mixture of lower sodium peanuts, raisins, and then sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds. You mix it all into a big Tupperware, and this makes a great snack for on the go. You can put this in a little Ziploc bag and it goes in your briefcase or your purse. It requires no refrigeration. It's not going to go bad on you. It can sit in your hot car. And it's going to provide lots of fiber, lots of protein, and sustained energy. So I would recommend a snack of peanuts, raisins, nuts, seeds, other nuts, seeds, almonds, walnuts, over granola bars, protein bars, energy bars, any single day. A lot of these energy bars and protein bars have lots and lots of added sugar. I hope everybody will turn into a label reader and start really, really examining the amount of sugars that are in their foods. The more single ingredient, minimally processed foods you can eat, like peanuts, good old-fashioned peanuts. These are essentially a single ingredient food with the exception of salt. There's 2 ingredients in here. One is the peanuts and the second ingredient is the salt. So when you buy raisins, it's a single ingredient food. It's raisins. So you're eating raisins and peanuts. You're not eating something from the factory. And trust me, this kind of a snack of mixed nuts and dried fruit will stay with you for a long time. When I say stay with you, I mean keep your hunger at bay, so you're not always up looking for what's next. I don't know if you've noticed, if you eat a very, very highly processed snack like a energy bar or something like that, about an hour or 90 minutes later, your hunger is right back and you're looking for what's next. When you eat snacks that are very, very high in fiber, high protein, and minimally processed, your hunger is kept at bay, and you can better manage your appetite, better manage your mood, better manage your diabetes. So these are all things I definitely recommend, is that you stay away from processed snacky kinds of foods.
Hey, Wendy, when you're talking about reading labels, can you just real quick explain the different sugars that are listed and what should be counted and what shouldn't? Because it's always like sugar alcohols, this, that, the other.
Yeah. Sugar alcohols are something that it's just so negligible. I wouldn't worry so much about sugar alcohols. Where you see OSE, the letters OSE, that is sugar. Glucose, maltose, sucrose, galactose. Wherever you see the words OSE, you can definitely, dextrose, you can definitely bet that is a sugar. So when you're looking at a label, there's all kinds of different ways that food manufacturers will call sugar. Let me see if I've got something in here. I have all kinds of food in here. Let's see. Maybe this one. So this is Coffee Mate. This is a coffee creamer. So the first ingredient is water, and the second ingredient is sugar, and the third ingredient is oil. So this is actually a dairy-free product, and the second ingredient is sugar. There's actually 3 kinds of oil in here. So that's not a good example. But yeah, wherever you see the letters OSE, you can bet that that is sugar. Let's see here. Let's see, cream, sugar, milk, skim milk, flour. No, that's not another good example. I wish I had a better example for you. I'm sorry. Well, I think we're at 2 o'clock. So if you have any more questions, I'm happy to answer them. And if not, then I'll sign off.
You said you'll share these recipes from today?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I have them all written up. They're on my computer. I just have to copy and paste them and send them along.
Excellent. Thanks, Wendy, for all the information.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Thanks for being a nice audience. You've been a really nice and attentive audience, and I do appreciate it. It's tough to do it like this.
Thank you so much. And thank you for all the sharing all your little tips. Those are very helpful.
Okay, good. Good. Thank you very much. It's nice to spend some time with you. Okay,
I hope you do
bye-bye.
it again soon. Thank you.
Oh yeah, I'd love to come back, and maybe in person. Maybe in person if the world opens up. That'd be nice too.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.